Michael's hands were shaking as he turned the key. Not from the cold, not from exhaustion, though God knows he had every right to both. They were shaking because he'd just been escorted out of Sterling Industries like a criminal, his badge thrown into a trash can in front of 40 people who'd once called him a friend. Theft, they said. $20,000 missing from the project budget, and somehow his name on every document. He pushed the door open, ready to collapse, ready to figure out how to tell his 7-year-old daughter that Daddy lost his job the same week her medication costs doubled. But he froze. There was someone in his living room. A woman in a charcoal gray suit, the kind that cost more than his monthly rent, was sweeping his floor. Not delicately, not symbolically, actually sweeping, her hair falling loose from what had probably been a perfect bun hours ago. And on his couch, wrapped in her favorite yellow blanket, was Emma, his Emma, laughing at something the woman had just said. His brain couldn't process it, because he knew that suit, he knew that face. Victoria Sterling, his CEO, the woman who'd signed his termination papers 4 hours ago. She looked up, their eyes met, and he saw something that made his blood run cold. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't pity. It was something far more dangerous. It was tenderness. Before we continue, tell me in the comments where you're listening from. We love seeing how these stories reach people across the world. And if you believe stories about second chances and unexpected love deserve to be told, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, let me take you back to where this impossible situation truly began. 12 hours earlier, Michael Chen had believed in fairness. He'd believed that hard work mattered, that integrity was currency, that if you showed up early and stayed late and double-checked every number, the universe would somehow protect you. He'd been wrong. The conference room had been packed. His manager, Tom Bradley, stood at the head of the table with a face Michael had never seen before. Cold, almost gleeful. Behind him, the projector displayed Michael's signature on a dozen purchase orders, equipment that was never delivered, invoices paid to companies that didn't exist. $20,000 gone. Can you explain this? Tom had asked. Michael's mouth had gone dry. He'd reviewed those orders, yes, approved them as part of his job in project management, but he'd never authorized payments. That wasn't his clearance level. Everyone in that room knew that. Those approvals were procedural, Michael said, keeping his voice steady even as his heart hammered. I verified the vendor quotes matched the project scope. Payment authorization goes through finance. You know that, Tom. And yet your digital signature is on the payment releases. That's impossible. I don't have access to that system. Tom had smiled then. Actually smiled. We've consulted with IT. Your credentials were used. Your signature. Your computer. He'd paused, letting the silence stretch like a noose. We're terminating your employment effective immediately. Security will escort you out. The room had erupted. Some people looked away, others whispered. Jennifer from accounting, who he'd helped train last year, was recording on her phone. For evidence, she'd said. He realized later she meant evidence against him. Wait. Michael had stood, papers sliding off the table. This is a mistake. Check the security logs. Check who had physical access to my machine. I leave it unlocked during my lunch break because Tom told me to. Said it was company policy for managers to be able to access our work if emergencies came up. Tom's smile had widened. Are you suggesting I framed you, Michael? The words hung there. Because that's exactly what Michael was suggesting, and they both knew it. And saying it out loud would only make him look desperate, paranoid, guilty. I have a daughter, Michael had said quietly. She's sick. I would never risk my job. Never. And you should have thought about that before you stole from us. Security had arrived. 2 men he'd shared coffee with 100 times. They wouldn't meet his eyes as they walked him past the cubicles, past the break room where his mug still sat in the sink, past the elevator bay where someone had once hung a banner celebrating his 5th anniversary with the company. His badge went into the trash can by the front desk. The receptionist, Lisa, had tears in her eyes, but she didn't say anything. No one did. The walk to his car had felt like drowning. What Michael hadn't seen was the woman watching from the executive floor, 7 stories above. Victoria Sterling stood at her office window, arms crossed, her face unreadable. She'd watched the whole thing, not the conference room humiliation, but this, the walk of shame, the moment a man's dignity got stripped in broad daylight. She'd made a phone call. Run a full audit on the Chen termination, she'd said. I want to know who accessed his credentials and when, and I want it yesterday." Her assistant had hesitated. "Ma'am, your father already approved the termination. He said the evidence was clear." "My father." Victoria's voice had gone cold. "Not me. This is my company and I want the audit now." She'd hung up before he could respond. Victoria Sterling had not built her reputation by trusting people, especially not her father, who'd been trying to push her out of the CEO position since the day the board appointed her. This termination had his fingerprints all over it. Too convenient, too public. A message to her, maybe, or a distraction from something bigger. But that wasn't why she'd made the call. She'd made the call because 3 weeks ago, during a late-night review of employee files, she'd seen a photo on Michael Chen's desk. A little girl with a bright smile, holding up a drawing. The HR notes mentioned medical accommodations, flexible scheduling for doctor's appointments, insurance paperwork for ongoing treatment. Victoria had spent her entire life in rooms where people smiled while they destroyed you. She knew what it looked like when someone was being set up. She also knew what it felt like to be trapped. Her phone buzzed. Her mother's face filled the screen. Victoria ignored it. The phone buzzed again. Then a text. "Dinner tonight. Preston will be there. Wear the blue dress. This is not optional. Preston Whitmore. Heir to a pharmaceutical fortune. Portfolio worth 300 million. Personality worth nothing. He was her parents' choice. Had been since she'd turned 25. They'd introduced them at charity galas, arranged coincidental meetings, made it clear that a merger between Sterling Industries and Whitmore Pharmaceuticals wasn't just good business. It was the plan. Victoria had refused. Politely at first, then firmly, then with the kind of icy rage that made board members reconsider their arguments. But her parents had leverage. The company's shares were split 3 ways, pending her marriage. If she didn't marry someone they approved of by her 35th birthday, control reverted to her father. She had 4 months left. "You're being unreasonable," her mother had said over lunch last week. "Preston is accomplished, attractive, and appropriate. What more do you want? I want to choose my own life. You want to die alone in your corner office." Her mother had dabbed her lips with a napkin, perfectly composed. "That's not strength, darling. That's cowardice." Victoria had left the restaurant before dessert arrived. Now, standing at her window, watching Michael Chen drive away in a 10-year-old Honda with a cracked taillight, Victoria made a decision. It was reckless, possibly insane, but she'd spent 15 years playing by rules designed to suffocate her, and she was done. She needed a family, a real one, at least on paper, a husband who wasn't Preston, a story her parents couldn't dismantle without exposing their own manipulation, and Michael Chen needed money. She made another call. 2 days later, Michael was sitting in a coffee shop 3 blocks from his apartment, staring at a medical bill that might as well have been written in blood. Emma's treatment was working. The new medication was stabilizing her condition, giving her a chance at a normal childhood. But insurance had denied the last claim. Something about experimental treatments and out-of-network providers. The number at the bottom was $37,000, due in 60 days. He'd applied to 23 jobs in the last 48 hours. No one was calling back. Word traveled fast in their industry. Fired for theft was a scarlet letter that didn't wash off. "Mr. Chen." He looked up. Victoria Sterling stood beside his table, dressed casually in jeans and a silk blouse that probably cost more than his car. She looked different without the armor of her business suits. Younger, almost uncertain. "Ms. Sterling." He started to stand, then sat back down. What was the point of manners? She'd already seen him at his lowest. "May I sit?" He gestured to the empty chair. She sat with the kind of grace that came from finishing schools and country clubs. Her posture perfect, even in a cheap coffee shop with sticky tables. "I reviewed your case," she said without preamble. "You were framed. My father's chief of operations accessed your credentials during your lunch breaks over a 3-week period. He created the false trail." Michael's coffee went cold in his hands. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I'm going to fix it. You'll be reinstated with back pay and a formal apology. The actual thief will be prosecuted." He should have felt relief. Victory, something. Instead, he just felt tired. "There's a but, isn't there?" Victoria's lips curved slightly. "You're perceptive. I'm desperate. That makes you see clearly." She studied him for a long moment. "I have a proposal. It's unorthogonal, possibly unethical, but it's mutually beneficial. I'm listening. I need a husband, not a real one. A contractual one. 6 months. Public appearances, family dinners, convincing enough to satisfy legal requirements. In exchange, I'll cover all of your daughter's medical expenses. Every bill, every treatment, plus a salary of $10,000 a month. Michael's brain stuttered. You need a what? My parents control my inheritance through a marriage clause. If I don't marry someone they approve of, I lose the company. But if I'm already married, the clause is void. The marriage just has to last 6 months to be legally binding for the trust provisions. And you chose me because you need money and I need authenticity. Preston Whitmore would never let his wife sweep floors or pack school lunches. But you have a daughter, a real life, a story people will believe. She leaned forward. I'm not asking you to love me, Mr. Chen. I'm asking you to let me borrow your life. This is insane. Yes. Your parents will investigate me. They'll find the termination, which I'll have overturned by Monday. You'll be a wrongly accused employee who I personally exonerated. It makes me look decisive and fair. It makes you look sympathetic. Michael looked at her. Really looked. He saw the desperation she was hiding behind expensive perfume and perfect posture. She wasn't that different from him, just a different kind of trapped. My daughter, he said slowly. She can't know it's fake. She's been through too much already. If she thinks you care, and then you leave, I understand. Do you? His voice hardened. She's 7, she's sick, and she still believes the world is good. I won't let you break that. Victoria's expression softened. Then I won't break it. Just like that? Just like that. Michael thought about the bill in his pocket. Thought about Emma asking him last night if they had to move again, her voice small and scared. Thought about the look on Tom Bradley's face as he'd destroyed Michael's career for sport. He thought about survival. 6 months, he said. And after that, you disappear clean. No drama. We tell Emma you had to move for work. Agreed. And I want it in writing, every term, every dollar. Victoria pulled a folder from her bag. I had my attorney draw up contracts yesterday. Of course she did. Michael took the papers, skimmed the dense legal language. It was all there. Medical expenses, salary, termination clause, confidentiality agreements. It was a business transaction. Nothing more. He signed. Victoria signed. They shook hands across the table like executives closing a deal. Her grip was firm and cold. When do we start? Michael asked. Tonight. My parents are hosting a dinner party. You're my surprise date. She stood, smoothing her jeans. Wear your best suit. And Mr. Chen? Yes. Thank you. She walked out before he could ask what she was thanking him for. Michael sat alone with the contract and wondered what he'd just done. Outside the window, the city moved on, indifferent to the strange bargain he'd just made. Somewhere across town, Emma was at her grandmother's house, probably drawing pictures or watching cartoons, unaware that her father had just sold 6 months of his life to save hers. He looked at Victoria's signature on the contract, elegant, controlled, nothing like the chaos he felt inside. This was going to be a disaster, but it was also going to save his daughter. That was all that mattered. He finished his coffee and went home to find his best suit, which wasn't very good at all, and tried to remember how to pretend his life wasn't falling apart. He'd gotten good at that over the years. Tonight, he'd just have to be better. The Sterling family estate looked like something out of a movie Michael couldn't afford to watch. Marble columns, a circular driveway with a fountain that probably cost more than his entire neighborhood, and enough windows that he could see chandeliers glittering in at least 3 rooms from the street. Victoria met him at the gate, driving herself in a silver Mercedes that purred like a contented cat. Get in, she said through the window. We need to get our story straight. Michael climbed into the passenger seat, acutely aware that his suit was shiny at the elbows and his shoes were scuffed. She didn't seem to notice, or maybe she was just too polite to mention it. We met at a company charity event 3 months ago, Victoria said as she drove. You were volunteering. I was impressed by your dedication to your daughter. We started talking, kept in touch, and recently began dating. They'll ask why you never mentioned me. I'll say I wanted to keep it private, that I've learned to be careful about who I trust. She glanced at him. That part's actually true. The house was worse up close. Better maybe, depending on your perspective. But for Michael, who'd grown up in a two-bedroom apartment with walls so thin you could hear the neighbors breathing. It was overwhelming, intimidating, a reminder of exactly how far apart their worlds were. Victoria's mother met them at the door. Margaret Sterling was Victoria in 30 years, if Victoria let bitterness calcify around her heart. Beautiful, composed, and radiating the kind of cold disapproval that didn't need words. "Mother," Victoria said, "this is Michael Chen." Margaret's eyes swept over him like a radar system detecting threats. "Mr. Chen, how unexpected." "Mrs. Sterling, thank you for having me. I wasn't aware I had invited you." Victoria's jaw tightened. "I invited him as my guest." "I see." Margaret turned and walked into the house, leaving them to follow. "Your father is in the library with Preston. This should be entertaining." The library was all dark wood and leather furniture and books that looked like they'd never been read. Victoria's father, Richard Sterling, stood by the fireplace with a man Michael recognized from business magazines. Preston Whitmore was tall, blonde, and smiling like someone who'd never been told no in his entire life. "Victoria," Preston said warmly, moving toward her with arms extended. Then he saw Michael, the smile dimmed by several watts. "Oh, you brought a friend." "I brought my boyfriend," Victoria said clearly. "Preston, this is Michael Chen." The room went silent. Richard Sterling set down his drink with a clink that sounded like a gavel. "I'm sorry, what?" "Michael and I have been seeing each other. I thought it was time you met him." Preston's face had gone carefully blank, the kind of blank that came from years of diplomatic training and emotional suppression. "How long has this been going on?" 3 months, Michael said. His voice came out steadier than he felt. "We met at a charity event." "A charity event?" Richard moved closer, studying Michael like a specimen under glass. "And what do you do, Mr. Chen?" "I work in project management at Sterling Industries." "Worked," Preston corrected softly. "I heard you were terminated last week." Of course he'd heard. People like Preston kept tabs on everything. "A mistake that I've personally corrected," Victoria interjected. "Michael was wrongly accused. I've reinstated him with full back pay and a promotion." Margaret's laugh was sharp as broken crystal. "How convenient. You're dating an employee you just rescued. Doesn't that seem a bit theatrical, darling?" "It seems human," Victoria said. "Something this family could use more of." Dinner was a battlefield disguised as a meal. 7 courses of passive aggression served on china worth more than Michael's car. Preston asked pointed questions about Michael's background, his education, his prospects. Richard made thinly veiled comments about social climbing and opportunism. Margaret simply stared at Michael like he was a stain on her tablecloth. Through it all, Victoria remained calm. Steel, wrapped in silk, she deflected, redirected, and when necessary, attacked with the kind of precision that came from a lifetime of these wars. Michael mostly stayed quiet, answering when spoken to, trying not to betray how far out of his depth he was. It was Victoria's hand, sliding into his under the table during dessert, that nearly broke him. Her fingers were cold and trembling slightly. She was terrified. She was just better at hiding it. He squeezed back. Her parents noticed, of course they did. "So tell me, Mr. Chen," Richard said as coffee was served, "what are your intentions toward my daughter?" Michael looked at Victoria, at the tension in her shoulders, the defiance in her eyes, the vulnerability she was trying so hard to hide. He thought about the contract in his apartment, about the $60,000 that would save Emma's life, about the fact that this was all just pretend, but her hand in his felt real. "I intend to treat her the way she deserves," Michael said quietly, "with respect, with honesty, and with gratitude that she sees something worth her time in someone like me." The table went quiet again, but this time it felt different. Victoria's fingers tightened around his. Preston excused himself shortly after. He left with grace, but Michael saw the anger beneath the polish. This wasn't over. Men like Preston didn't lose without fighting back. The drive back to Michael's apartment was quiet. Victoria pulled up outside, the Mercedes looking absurdly out of place among the modest buildings and chain-link fences. "You did well tonight," she said. "I barely said anything." "Exactly. You didn't try to impress them. That probably confused them more than anything." She smiled slightly. "They're used to people performing for them. And what was I doing? Surviving, there's a difference." Michael reached for the door handle, then hesitated. "Your hand was shaking. At dinner." Victoria's smile faded. I didn't think you noticed. I notice a lot of things. She looked at him then, really looked, and for a moment the mask slipped. He saw exhaustion, loneliness, the weight of carrying an empire while fighting for the right to exist on her own terms. This isn't going to be easy, she said softly. My family will come after you. They'll investigate, intimidate, try to buy you off. Are you prepared for that? Michael thought about Emma, about the bills, about the fact that he'd already lost everything once. I've been through worse, he said, and I'm still here. Victoria nodded slowly. Then I'll see you Monday. 9 a.m. My office. We need to plan our next public appearance. It's a date, Michael said, then winced. I mean, not a date. A meeting, obviously. Her laugh was unexpected, genuine. It transformed her face, made her look younger, lighter. Obviously. He got out of the car and watched her drive away, taillights disappearing into the night. Then he climbed the 3 flights to his apartment, where his mother was reading a magazine in the living room. How was dinner? She asked without looking up. Complicated. That woman you're seeing. She's rich. Very. And you're doing this for Emma. Michael sat down heavily on the couch. His mother, Chen was 63 and had raised him alone after his father died. She knew how to read between lines better than anyone he'd ever met. I'm doing this for Emma, he confirmed. We set down her magazine. Just be careful. Rich people play different games. Sometimes they forget other people aren't pieces on a board. I know. Do you? She stood, patting his shoulder. Because I've seen that look before. That's not the look of a man playing a game. That's the look of a man starting to care. She went to bed before he could argue. Michael sat in the dark apartment, thinking about Victoria's hand trembling in his, about the loneliness in her eyes, about the fact that this was supposed to be simple, a business transaction. 6 months. Then done. So why did it already feel like more? The weekend passed in a blur of contract reviews and background checks. Victoria's lawyers were thorough, making sure every detail of their story was airtight. Michael signed paperwork until his hand cramped, authorized releases, memorized timelines. On Sunday afternoon, Victoria called. I'd like to meet Emma, she said without preamble. Tomorrow, if that's acceptable. Michael's stomach dropped. Why? Because if we're going to convince my family this is real, I need to know your daughter, and she needs to know me. We can't fake that part. Victoria. I'll be kind, I promise. The next morning, Victoria arrived at his apartment wearing jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked nervous. Actually nervous. It was strangely humanizing. Emma was in the living room, building an elaborate castle out of blocks. She looked up when Victoria entered, eyes wide and curious. Emma, Michael said gently. This is Victoria. She's Daddy's friend. Victoria knelt down slowly, getting to Emma's level. Hi, Emma. Your dad told me you're an amazing builder. Emma studied her with the brutal honesty of children. You're pretty. Thank you. You're pretty too. Daddy says you're his girlfriend. Victoria glanced at Michael, then back at Emma. I am. Is that okay? Emma considered this seriously. Then she held up a purple block. Can you help with my castle? I need someone to hold this wall while I build the tower. Something in Victoria's expression cracked. She took the block with hands that weren't quite steady. I would love to. Michael watched from the kitchen as they built together. Victoria followed Emma's instructions with the kind of focus she probably gave board meetings. Emma chattered about princesses and dragons and how the castle needed to be strong enough to keep everyone safe. My mom died, Emma said suddenly. 2 years ago. Victoria's hand stilled. I'm sorry. It's okay. She was sick for a long time, like me, but her sick was different. Emma placed another block carefully. Daddy says you're very smart. I try to be. Are you smart enough to help sick people? I'm not a doctor, sweetheart. But you have money. Emma's voice was matter-of-fact, not accusatory, just stating facts. Daddy says money helps with medicine. Victoria looked at Michael. He could see the question in her eyes, the sudden understanding of exactly what she'd agreed to. This wasn't abstract. This wasn't just contracts and business arrangements. This was a 7-year-old girl who understood mortality better than most adults. Yes, Victoria said quietly. I can help with that. Good. Emma smiled, radiant and trusting. Then you can stay. They spent 3 hours building that castle. Victoria stayed for lunch, which was just sandwiches and apple slices. But Emma insisted on using the fancy plates, which were just slightly less chipped than the regular ones. Victoria ate like it was a five-star restaurant. When Emma went down for her afternoon nap, exhausted but happy, Victoria stood in the kitchen looking shaken. "She's wonderful," Victoria said softly. "She is. And she's really sick." "Yeah." Victoria turned to him. "I need you to understand something. This arrangement, this contract, it was supposed to be clean, simple. But I can't promise that anymore." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I just spent 3 hours building a block castle with the sweetest child I've ever met. And I can't pretend that doesn't matter. I can't pretend she doesn't matter." Victoria's voice wavered. "So if this is going to work, we need a new rule. Whatever happens between us, whatever this becomes or doesn't become, Emma stays protected. Always." Michael felt something shift in his chest. "Agreed. I'm serious, Michael. If my family comes after you, if Preston makes things difficult, if this whole plan falls apart, Emma doesn't get hurt. We shield her from all of it." "I know." Victoria nodded, then grabbed her purse. "I should go. I have meetings all afternoon." She paused at the door. "Thank you for letting me meet her. She liked you. I liked her too, more than I expected to." She smiled, sad and genuine. "That's the problem, isn't it? We're not supposed to actually care." She left before he could respond. Michael checked on Emma, found her sleeping peacefully with her favorite stuffed rabbit. Then he sat on his bed and stared at Victoria's contract on his nightstand, at all those carefully worded clauses about emotional distance and professional boundaries. They'd both already broken every single one. The next 2 weeks were a carefully choreographed performance. Dinner dates at upscale restaurants where they knew photographers would be. A company gala where Victoria introduced Michael to executives and investors, his hand on her waist feeling less awkward each time. Weekend outings with Emma, where Victoria taught her about art museums and fancy pastries, and treating service workers with respect. The media ate it up. CEO finds love with regular employee. Modern fairy tale. Comment sections exploded with opinions, half romantic and half cynical, but all engaged. Victoria's parents were less charmed. Richard showed up at Michael's apartment one evening, unannounced. Michael answered the door in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, Emma watching cartoons behind him. "Mr. Chen," Richard said coldly, "we need to talk. I'm with my daughter. This won't take long." Richard pushed past him without invitation. "How much?" "Excuse me? How much money will it take for you to walk away from my daughter?" Richard pulled out a checkbook. "Name your price. Whatever she's paying you, I'll triple it." Michael's blood went hot. "Get out of my house. $500,000, cash. You disappear. Tell Victoria it's not working and everyone moves on with their lives. I said get out. 1 million. Daddy?" Emma appeared in the hallway clutching her rabbit. "Who's that man?" Richard glanced at her and something flickered across his face. Calculation. "Is that the sick child?" Michael stepped between them. "Leave, now. Think about it, Mr. Chen. Think about how much good that money could do, how much medical care it could buy, how secure your daughter's future could be." Richard set a business card on the table. "When you're ready to be realistic, call me." He left. Michael stood in his apartment, shaking with rage while Emma tugged on his shirt. "Daddy, you're scary when you're angry." He picked her up, held her close. "I'm sorry, baby. That man was just being rude." "Is he Victoria's daddy?" "Yes." Emma frowned. "He's not very nice. Victoria is way better." That night, after Emma was asleep, Michael called Victoria. "Your father came to my apartment," he said. "He offered me $1 million to leave you." Silence. Then, "Are you going to take it?" "What?" "No." "Victoria, I just thought you should know what he's doing." "Right." Her voice was strange, distant. "Of course. Thank you for telling me. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. I'll handle my father. Don't worry about it." She hung up before he could say anything else. It was 3 days before he saw her again. 3 days of radio silence, missed calls, cryptic text messages saying she was busy with work. Michael started to wonder if he'd said something wrong, if telling her about her father's offer had been a mistake. Then, on Thursday night, there was a knock on his door. Victoria stood in the hallway, still in her work clothes, her makeup smudged like she'd been crying. She held a bag of takeout Chinese food and looked completely lost. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. "Of course." She walked to his couch and sat down, setting the food aside. "My father called the board. He's trying to force a vote on my leadership. He says I'm making reckless personal decisions that compromise the company. Because of me. Because of you. She looked up at him. He's using our relationship to paint me as unstable, emotional, unfit to lead. We can end this right now. I'll make a statement. Say it was my fault that I pursued you inappropriately. Whatever protects you. No. Victoria. No. She stood, her voice sharp. Don't you understand? If I back down now, he wins. Not just this fight, every fight. For the rest of my life, I'll be the daughter who couldn't handle pressure, who needed daddy to fix her mistakes. I'll never be free. But the company is mine. I built half of what it is today. I turned it from a regional manufacturer into a global brand, and he wants to take it away because I won't marry Preston Whitmore and play the obedient daughter. She was crying now, mascara tracking down her face. I'm so tired, Michael. I'm so tired of fighting every single day just to exist. He crossed the room without thinking, pulled her into his arms. She collapsed against him, shaking, finally letting herself break somewhere safe. I've got you, he said softly. Whatever you need, I've got you. She cried for 10 minutes, soaking his shirt. Her perfect composure shattered into something raw and real. When she finally pulled back, she looked embarrassed. I'm sorry. That was unprofessional. Victoria, we're in my crappy apartment at 9 p.m. on a Thursday, and you brought Chinese food. I think we're past professional. She laughed wetly. I don't know how to do this, the real thing. I've been performing my whole life. So have I. Just for different audiences. She looked at him then, and something shifted. The air changed, became charged, dangerous. When you held my hand at dinner, she said quietly. That first night at my parents' house, that wasn't part of the act, was it? No. When I met Emma, and you let me into your life, you didn't have to be that kind. You could have kept it transactional. I could have. Michael agreed. But you were sitting on my floor playing with blocks like it was the most important meeting you'd ever had. How was I supposed to keep you at a distance? Victoria took a shaky breath. This is getting complicated. Yeah, we should stop. Pull back. Remember why we're doing this. We should, Michael agreed. Neither of them moved. My father thinks you're using me for money, Victoria said. My mother thinks I'm having a breakdown. Preston thinks I'm punishing him. But none of them asked me what I think. What do you think? She touched his face, her hand soft and tentative. I think I haven't felt this alive in years. I think when Emma hugged me goodbye last Sunday, it was the first time in my adult life someone touched me just because they wanted to, not because they needed something. I think you're the only person in my entire world who sees me as just Victoria, not Sterling Industries, not the CEO, not the heiress, just me. Michael covered her hand with his. Just Victoria is my favorite version. She kissed him. It wasn't careful or strategic or part of any plan. It was desperate and honest and tasted like salt from her tears. Michael kissed her back, his hands in her hair. 6 months of pretending burning away in seconds. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Victoria looked terrified. This is a really bad idea, she whispered. Terrible idea, Michael agreed. We have a contract, rules, boundaries, lots of boundaries. We should stop. Definitely should stop. Victoria kissed him again, deeper this time. Michael pulled her closer, lost in the feeling of something real breaking through all the performance and protection they'd built. They only broke apart when Emma's voice called from the bedroom. Daddy, I had a bad dream. Reality crashed back. Michael stepped away from Victoria, both of them flushed and disheveled. I'll be right there, baby, he called back. Victoria straightened her clothes, wiped her face. I should go. Victoria, we'll talk about this. Soon. But right now your daughter needs you. She grabbed her purse, paused at the door. For what it's worth, I don't regret it. Neither do I. She smiled, small and scared and hopeful. Then she left. Michael went to Emma's room, climbed into bed beside her, held her while she told him about the monsters in her closet. He promised her she was safe, that he'd always protect her, that nothing bad would ever get past him. He didn't mention that the scariest thing in his life right now wasn't a monster. It was how much he was starting to care about a woman he was supposed to be pretending to love. 2 days later, Emma spiked a fever. It started small, just 99 degrees and some tiredness. But by evening, it was 103 and climbing. Her breathing went shallow. Her lips tinged blue. Michael called 911. The hospital was chaos. Doctors, nurses, machines beeping. Emma crying in pain while they stuck her with IVs and ran tests. Michael held her hand, trying to be strong, trying not to let her see how terrified he was. His phone died. He had no way to call his mother, no way to reach anyone. The doctors said it was a complication from her condition, an infection her weakened immune system couldn't fight. They used words like critical and overnight observation and we'll do everything we can. Michael sat in a plastic chair in the ICU waiting room at 2 a.m., his head in his hands, completely alone. Then someone sat down beside him. He looked up. Victoria was there, in yoga pants and a sweatshirt, her hair in a messy bun, no makeup, looking nothing like a CEO, and everything like someone who'd dropped everything to be there. "How did you know?" he asked. "The hospital called me. You listed me as an emergency contact." She took his hand. "How is she?" "They don't know yet. Maybe pneumonia, maybe worse. They're running tests." His voice broke. "I can't lose her, Victoria. She's all I have." "You're not going to lose her. She's strong, like her dad. I should have noticed sooner. Should have taken her temperature this morning. Should have—" "Michael," Victoria gripped his hand tighter. "This is not your fault. You're doing everything right." They sat in silence for a long time. Then Victoria stood up. "Where are you going?" Michael asked. "To talk to the head of pediatrics. I'm going to make sure Emma has the best care this hospital can provide." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." She looked at him with fierce determination. "You asked me 6 weeks ago if I understood what was at stake. Now I do. So let me help." She was gone for 20 minutes. When she came back, she was followed by 3 doctors Michael hadn't seen before. "Mr. Chen," the lead doctor said. "Ms. Sterling has arranged for a specialist to consult on Emma's case. Dr. Patterson is one of the best pediatric immunologists in the country. He's reviewing her charts now." Michael looked at Victoria. "You called a specialist at 2 in the morning?" "I called 5 specialists. Patterson was the only one who answered." She sat down beside him again. "I told him money was no object, that Emma is important, that she matters." "Victoria, don't thank me. Just let me stay." They sat together through the night. Victoria brought terrible coffee from the vending machine. Michael told her stories about Emma, about the time she'd tried to build a rocket ship out of cardboard boxes, about how she'd named every stuffed animal in her collection after characters from her favorite books. Victoria told him about being 10 years old and desperate for her father's approval, about spending weekends learning business terminology instead of playing with friends, about the first time she'd realized her parents saw her as an asset, not a daughter. At 6 a.m. the doctor came out. "She's stable," he said. "The infection responded to antibiotics. We want to keep her for a few days, but she's going to be okay." Michael nearly collapsed with relief. Victoria caught him, held him up, her own eyes wet with tears. "Can I see her?" Michael asked. "She's sleeping, but yes." They walked to Emma's room together. She looked so small in the hospital bed, tubes and monitors everywhere, but her color was better, her breathing even. Victoria stood in the doorway watching. Emma stirred, opened her eyes and smiled weakly when she saw her father. "Daddy." "Hey, baby. You scared me." "I'm sorry." Her eyes found Victoria. "You came." Victoria moved closer, her hand trembling as she brushed Emma's hair back. "Of course I came. Are you going to stay?" Victoria looked at Michael. He saw the question in her eyes, the fear, the hope, the realization that this had become so much more than a contract. "Yes," Victoria said softly. "I'm going to stay." Emma smiled and closed her eyes again, reassured. Michael and Victoria stood on opposite sides of the bed, watching Emma sleep. Victoria's hand found his across the blankets. She didn't let go. "This wasn't supposed to happen," Victoria whispered. "No, we were supposed to keep our distance. Stay professional." "I know, but I can't." Her voice broke. "I can't pretend anymore, Michael. I care about her, and I care about you, and it terrifies me." Michael looked at her, at this brilliant, powerful woman who'd spent her whole life in armor, now standing in a hospital room at dawn, completely undefended. "It terrifies me too," he said honestly, "but I don't want to stop, even if it gets messy. Especially if it gets messy." Victoria smiled through her tears. "We're terrible at this fake relationship thing." "The worst," Michael agreed. They stayed at the hospital all day. Victoria canceled her meetings, ignored her phone, and sat in an uncomfortable chair reading Emma her favorite stories when she woke up. She ordered food from Emma's favorite restaurant, brought coloring books and puzzles, made the nurses laugh with stories about board meetings gone wrong. She fit into their life like she'd always been there, and that's when Michael knew this wasn't going to end in 6 months. This wasn't going to end at all. Emma came home from the hospital on a Tuesday, weaker but smiling, clutching a stuffed bear that Victoria had brought her. The apartment felt different now, lighter, like something had shifted while they were gone. Victoria had stayed with them that first night, sleeping on the couch despite Michael's protests. She'd made breakfast in the morning, burnt the eggs spectacularly, and Emma had laughed so hard she'd started coughing. Victoria had looked mortified until Emma declared the burnt eggs were fancy and ate every bite. It felt like family. That should have been Michael's first warning. The board meeting happened 3 days later. Victoria had been tense all morning, her texts short and distracted. Michael was back at work, reinstated to his position with a new office and a raise that felt like conscience money. People whispered when he walked by. Some avoided him. Others were overly friendly, clearly trying to figure out his angle. He was in a meeting when his phone buzzed with a news alert. Sterling Industries CEO faces leadership challenge. Board to vote on confidence motion. His stomach dropped. He excused himself, called Victoria. It went straight to voicemail. The article was brutal. Anonymous board members questioning her judgment. Her father quoted extensively about emotional decision-making and personal entanglements that compromise fiduciary responsibility. There were photos of Victoria and Michael at restaurants, at the hospital, leaving his apartment building. Preston Whitmore was quoted too. Victoria is a brilliant woman, but everyone has their breaking point. Sometimes caring too much becomes a liability. Michael read between the lines. This wasn't just about leadership. This was a coordinated attack. He left work early, drove to Sterling Industries headquarters. The receptionist recognized him, led him up to the executive floor. Victoria's assistant, David, intercepted him outside her office. She's in a meeting, David said quietly. With her father and the board's executive committee, it's not going well. How not well? They're asking her to choose, the company or you. Michael's blood went cold. That's insane. That's Richard Sterling. David glanced at the closed door. He's been planning this for months. He used your relationship as the excuse, but he would have found another reason. He wants his company back. It's not his company, it's hers. Try telling him that. The office door opened. Richard Sterling emerged, looking satisfied. Victoria followed, her face pale but composed. She saw Michael and something flickered across her expression. Relief. Fear. He couldn't tell. Mr. Chen, Richard said smoothly. How convenient. We were just discussing you. I need to talk to Victoria. I'm afraid she's busy preparing her resignation. Michael's heart stopped. What? Father, Victoria said sharply. That's not what's happening, isn't it? You agreed to a leave of absence. 6 months. Time to get your personal life in order. Richard smiled coldly. Time to realize what's important. A leave of absence isn't a resignation. Semantics. Richard turned to Michael. You should be proud. My daughter is sacrificing her life's work for your relationship. That must feel very validating. Don't talk to him like that, Victoria said. I'll talk to him however I like. He's a gold digger who saw an opportunity and took it. At least have the decency to call it what it is. Michael stepped forward. Victoria caught his arm. Don't, she said quietly. He wants you to lose control. Don't give him that. Richard laughed. How sweet. She's protecting you. Tell me, Mr. Chen, how does it feel to hide behind a woman's skirts? How does it feel to sabotage your own daughter because you can't control her? Michael shot back. Richard's smile vanished. Careful. No, I don't think I will be careful. You've spent Victoria's entire life trying to turn her into your puppet. But she's smarter than you, stronger than you, and she built half this company while you were playing golf with your board cronies. The only reason you're coming after her now is because you know she's better at this than you ever were. Michael, stop, Victoria said. But Michael couldn't stop. Weeks of watching her carry impossible weight, of seeing her parents treat her like property, of knowing they saw him as leverage to break her, all of it boiled over. You want to call me a gold digger? Fine. But at least I see her as a person. At least I don't treat her like she's only worth the company she can run or the man she can marry. You're her father. You're supposed to love her, but you only love what she can do for you. The silence was deafening. Richard's face had gone red. Get him out of my building. It's not your building, Victoria said quietly. It's mine. For now. Forever. Victoria straightened, and Michael saw the CEO return. Cold. Precise. Dangerous. You want a vote of confidence? Fine. Call it. Let the board decide if I'm fit to lead. But do it honestly. No more backroom deals, no more manipulation, just vote. Victoria. And when I win, which I will, you're resigning from the board. You can keep your shares, keep your legacy, but you don't get to undermine me anymore. Richard stared at his daughter. For a moment, Michael saw something flicker across his face. Pride, maybe, or regret, but it vanished quickly. You'll lose, Richard said. Then I'll lose on my own terms. Richard left without another word. Victoria stood in the hallway, shaking slightly. David appeared with water, which she drank mechanically. Other executives passed by, pretending not to stare. Your office, Victoria said to Michael. Now. They took the elevator down in silence. Michael's new office was modest but private. Victoria closed the door behind them and leaned against it. You shouldn't have done that, she said. He was attacking you. He was baiting you, and you fell for it. She pressed her hands to her face. God, Michael, do you have any idea what you just did? I defended you. You gave him ammunition. Now he can say you're volatile, that I'm so blinded by our relationship I'm letting you attack board members. He's going to use that speech against me. I don't care. Well, I do. Victoria's voice rose. This is my company, my life, and you just made it harder. Michael felt anger flash hot. So what was I supposed to do? Stand there while he called me a gold digger? While he tried to force you out? Yes, that's exactly what you were supposed to do. Stay silent. Stay professional. Let me handle my own family. I was trying to help. I didn't ask for your help. The words hung between them. Victoria looked stricken, like she couldn't believe she'd said it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean... No, you're right. Michael's voice went cold. This isn't my world. I don't know the rules. I'm just the fake boyfriend who's making everything worse. That's not what I said. It's what you meant. Victoria opened her mouth, closed it. The vote is in 2 weeks. I need to focus. I need to be strategic. I can't do that if I'm worrying about you. Then don't worry about me. Michael, we have a contract. 6 months. I'll fulfill it. But maybe you're right. Maybe we should remember what this actually is. A business arrangement. He regretted the words the moment they left his mouth. Victoria flinched like he'd slapped her. Right, she said quietly. A business arrangement. She left. Michael sat in his office staring at the door, knowing he'd just made a terrible mistake. But pride and hurt kept him in his chair. He didn't go after her. He should have gone after her. The next week was torture. Victoria stopped calling, stopped visiting. Her texts were professional, brief. Michael told himself it was for the best. They'd gotten too close, too fast. The hospital had blurred their boundaries. This was just a course correction. Emma didn't see it that way. Where's Victoria? She asked every day. She's busy with work, baby. But she said she'd come back. She will, soon. But Michael wasn't sure he believed it. The attack came on Friday. Michael was picking Emma up from his mother's house when a black car pulled up. 2 men in expensive suits got out. Private investigators, they said. Working for the Sterling family. We have some questions about your relationship with Victoria Sterling, the first one said. I have nothing to say to you. That's fine. We have plenty of information already. The man handed him a folder. Financial records, text messages, medical bills. All very interesting. Michael's blood ran cold. You've been following me? Following you. Following your daughter. Following Miss Sterling. It's amazing what you can learn with the right resources. The man smiled. Did you know, Ms. Sterling has paid over $200,000 toward your daughter's medical care in the last 6 weeks. That's a lot of money for a girlfriend of 3 months. That's private. Not anymore. This information goes to the board on Monday. They'll want to know if their CEO is being blackmailed, or if she's just foolishly in love with a con artist. I'm not a con artist. Maybe not, but you're definitely poor, desperate, and very convenient. The man got back in the car. Enjoy your weekend, Mr. Chen. Monday's going to be rough. They drove away. Michael stood on the sidewalk, the folder in his hands. Emma calling his name from inside his mother's house. He opened it. Everything was there. Bank records showing Victoria's payments. Copies of their contract, somehow obtained. Photos of them at the hospital, at restaurants, leaving his apartment at dawn. They'd been building a case, proving Michael was using Victoria, proving their relationship was transactional. And the worst part? They weren't entirely wrong. It had started as a transaction, a deal. He needed money. She needed a husband. Everything else that came after, all the real feelings, all the genuine connection, none of that mattered if he couldn't prove it. And how do you prove love? Michael called Victoria 12 times that night. Every call went to voicemail. He texted. No response. Finally, at midnight, he drove to her penthouse. The doorman wouldn't let him up. Ms. Sterling left instructions. The doorman said apologetically. No visitors. Please, I need to talk to her. It's important. I'm sorry, sir. Michael stood in the lobby of a building he couldn't afford to rent a closet in and felt everything crashing down. He'd been so stupid, so naive, thinking he could exist in Victoria's world, thinking she could exist in his. They were from different planets. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. I know about the investigators. I'm handling it. Please don't contact me this weekend. I need space to think. Michael typed and deleted 5 responses before settling on. Okay. He drove home. Emma was asleep in the back seat, exhausted from playing with her cousins. He carried her up to their apartment, tucked her in, and sat in the dark living room, wondering how everything had fallen apart so fast. His mother found him there at 3 a.m. You're awake, she said. Can't sleep. She sat down beside him. You love her. It wasn't a question. Michael didn't bother denying it. Yeah. And she loves you. I don't know, maybe. But it doesn't matter. Why not? Because her father is right. I'm dragging her down. She should be focused on saving her company, and instead she's defending me, paying my bills, fighting battles that aren't hers. So you're going to give up? I'm going to let her go. It's what's best for her. His mother was quiet for a long moment. When your father died, I had nothing. No money, no education, just you and enough love to power the sun. Everyone told me to give you up, send you to relatives who could provide better, but I didn't. You know why? Because you're stubborn. Because love isn't about what's easy. It's about what's worth fighting for. She took his hand. That woman changed everything for Emma, for you. She didn't do it for show. She did it because she cares. And you're going to throw that away because you're scared. I'm not scared. Yes, you are. You're terrified that you're not good enough for her world. But she's been terrified her whole life that she's not good enough for anyone's love. You found each other anyway. Don't waste that. Michael closed his eyes. What if I make it worse? What if you make it better? The board vote was scheduled for Monday at 2 p.m. Michael wasn't invited, but the whole company knew about it. Rumors spread through the office like wildfire. Victoria was going to lose. Victoria was going to win. Victoria was going to resign and start her own company. Victoria was going to marry Preston Whitmore, and this whole thing with Michael was just a breakdown. Michael tried to work. Failed. Stared at his computer screen and saw only Victoria's face when he'd called their relationship a business arrangement. The hurt he'd put there. At 1 p.m., David called him. She's going to lose, David said without preamble. What? The vote. Victoria's going to lose. Her father has 7 board members locked. She has 6. The last 3 are undecided and they're going with Richard. They think she's unstable. Because of me. Because of your relationship. They're calling it a lapse in judgment. Evidence of emotional compromise. Michael's hands clenched. What can I do? Nothing. It's over. She's trying to negotiate a graceful exit. Keep her shares, keep her reputation. But the CEO position is done. Where is she? In the boardroom, making her last stand. Michael hung up. He had 90 minutes to fix this. 90 minutes to prove that Victoria Sterling wasn't unstable, that she wasn't compromised, that loving someone didn't make you weak, it made you stronger. He grabbed his jacket and ran. The boardroom was on the top floor, behind security and executive assistants and layers of corporate bureaucracy designed to keep people like Michael out. He didn't care. He pushed past the front desk, ignored the security guard calling after him, took the stairs because the elevator was too slow. He burst into the executive floor just as the board was gathering. Richard Sterling saw him first. His face darkened. "Someone remove this man," Richard said. "Wait." Victoria stood at the head of the table, papers spread in front of her. She looked exhausted, beautiful, defeated. "Let him speak." "Victoria, this is highly inappropriate. So is trying to remove your own daughter from the company she built. Let him speak." The board members shifted uncomfortably. Michael realized he had maybe 2 minutes before security arrived. "You think she's compromised," Michael said, addressing the room. "You think her relationship with me proves she's emotional, unstable, unfit to lead. That's the concern," one of the board members said carefully. "Then you don't know her at all." Michael moved to the table. 6 weeks ago, Victoria Sterling figured out I'd been framed for theft. She could have ignored it, should have ignored it. It wasn't her problem, but she didn't because she saw an injustice and fixed it. That's who she is. "Mr. Chen, I'm not finished." She spent 3 hours on a Saturday building a block castle with my 7-year-old daughter. She stayed up all night in a hospital waiting room when Emma got sick. She brought terrible coffee and told me stories about growing up in this family, about learning that love was conditional and success was currency. And you know what? She still came back here every day and fought for this company, for all of you. Richard stood up. "This is absurd. You're proving our point. She's distracted by you." "No," Michael said, "she's balanced by me. Do you know what she told me in the hospital? She said Emma was the first person who'd ever hugged her just because they wanted to, not because they needed something. That's what you've all done to her. Made her think she's only worth what she can provide." He turned to Victoria. She was staring at him with wide eyes, her careful composure cracking. "I was supposed to be a business arrangement," Michael continued, his voice softer now. "She needed a husband for 6 months to satisfy a trust requirement. I needed money for my daughter's medical bills. It was clean, simple. But then she met Emma, and Emma saw through all of Victoria's armor to the person underneath. And that person is kind, and funny, and terrible at cooking, and worth 100 of you. Security is on their way," Richard said coldly. "Good, let them hear this too." Michael faced the board. "You want to remove Victoria because you think she cares too much? Because she let someone into her life who isn't from your world? Fine, do it. But you'll lose the best CEO this company has ever had. Someone who increased your stock value by 40%. Someone who opened 3 international markets. Someone who actually gives a damn about the people who work here, not just the bottom line. And what about you?" Preston Whitmore spoke for the first time, his voice icy. "What do you get out of this passionate defense?" "I get nothing. After this, she'll probably never speak to me again. I'll lose my job. I'll go back to being exactly who I was before, a single father barely making ends meet." Michael looked at Victoria. "But she'll still be brilliant, she'll still be strong, and she'll still deserve better than all of you combined." The room went silent. Security arrived, 2 large men in uniforms. "Wait," Victoria said. Her voice was shaking. "Wait." She came around the table, stopped in front of Michael. Her eyes were wet. "You think I deserve better?" she asked quietly. "I know you do. Better than you?" Michael's throat tightened. "Especially better than me." Victoria's hand came up, touched his face. "You're an idiot. I know. I don't want better. I don't want Preston or someone from my world or someone my parents approve of. I want you, with your cramped apartment and your terrible coffee and your daughter who taught me what unconditional love actually looks like." Her voice broke. "I want you, Michael. Is that so hard to believe?" "Yes," he said honestly. "Every single day." "Then let me prove it." She turned to the board. "I'm withdrawing my candidacy for CEO." The room erupted. Richard looked triumphant. Preston looked confused. The other board members started talking over each other. "But," Victoria continued, her voice cutting through the chaos, "I'm retaining my shares, all of them, and I'm voting against my father's appointment as CEO. In fact, I'm recommending the board conduct a full investigation into his financial dealings over the last decade, starting with the $20,000 he embezzled and blamed on Michael Chen." Richard went pale. "You can't prove that." "I already did. Your chief of operations confessed last week. It's all documented." Victoria smiled coldly. "You taught me well, Father. Always have a backup plan. Mine just happened to be the truth." The security guard stood awkwardly in the doorway, unclear who they were supposed to be removing. "I don't need this CEO position if the cost is my humanity," Victoria said. "I'll start my own company, build something real, with people who actually care about more than stock prices." She took Michael's hand. "And I'll do it with someone who sees me as more than a business asset." She walked toward the door, pulling Michael with her. "Victoria," Richard called. "If you walk out now, you're done. The family name, the connections, all of it. Gone." Victoria stopped, looked back. "Good, I never wanted your name anyway. I wanted your approval, your love, but I'll settle for my freedom." They left together. In the elevator, Michael finally found his voice. "You just quit." "I did. You walked away from billions of dollars. I walked toward something better." "Victoria, I can't. I don't have anything to offer you. No money, no status, nothing." She pressed the emergency stop button. The elevator jerked to a halt between floors. In the sudden quiet, she turned to face him. "You offered me honesty in a world of liars. You offered me your daughter's trust when trust is earned, not bought. You offered me a life where block castles matter more than board meetings." She moved closer. "And just now you walked into a room full of people who terrify you and defended me. Not because I paid you, not because of our contract, but because you wanted to. That's everything, Michael. That's more than I've ever had. I messed this up so badly," he said. "Last week, what I said about the business arrangement, you were scared, so was I. We both ran." She took his hands. "But we're here now, and I'm done running." Michael pulled her close, kissed her like he should have done a dozen times before, like he'd been wanting to since that first dinner at her parents' house when she'd held his hand under the table. "I love you," he said against her lips. "I don't know when it happened. Maybe when you swept my floor. Maybe when Emma handed you that purple block. Maybe the moment you cried on my couch and let yourself be human. But I love you. I love you too," Victoria whispered, "and that terrifies me." "Good. Let's be terrified together." She laughed, then started the elevator again. They walked out of Sterling Industries together, past security, past the receptionist who gasped, past the employees who stared. Victoria's phone was ringing nonstop, messages flooding in, her assistant running after them with questions about press releases and damage control. Victoria ignored all of it. "Where are we going?" Michael asked. "To get Emma, then we're going somewhere far away from boardrooms and family obligations and people who think love is weakness." "And after that?" Victoria smiled. "I have no idea. Isn't that wonderful?" They got in her car and drove away from the gleaming tower that had been her prison. Michael held her hand the whole way, still half expecting to wake up, to find this was all a dream. But it wasn't. It was real, messily, beautifully, impossibly real. And it was about to get so much worse before it got better. The story should have ended there. The dramatic exit, the declarations of love, the middle finger to corporate America and family expectations. But life doesn't work that way. Real consequences take time to arrive, and when they do, they bring friends. The first week after Victoria walked out of Sterling Industries was euphoric. They took Emma to the beach, stayed in a modest hotel that Victoria claimed was charming, even though Michael knew she was lying. Emma built sand castles. Victoria got sunburned. Michael took a photo of them together that became his phone's wallpaper. They pretended the outside world didn't exist, but it did. The calls started on day 3. Victoria's lawyers, her accountant, her mother, surprisingly, leaving voicemails that Victoria deleted without listening. The media picked up the story. Sterling heiress walks away from fortune for mystery man. The comment sections were brutal. Half called her brave, half called her stupid. All of them had opinions. On day 7 they came home. Michael's apartment had never felt smaller. Victoria insisted it was fine, but he saw her trying to find places for her things in his tiny closet, watched her bump her head on the low kitchen cabinet for the 3rd time, noticed how she never complained but also never quite relaxed. Emma loved having Victoria there. She'd wake up early, climb into bed between them, chatter about her dreams. Victoria would make breakfast, still terrible at it, and Emma would eat every burnt pancake like it was gourmet. But Michael saw the cracks forming. Victoria tried to start her new company from his kitchen table, laptop surrounded by documents, phone constantly ringing with investors and lawyers and people wanting pieces of her. She'd have video calls with venture capitalists while Michael made dinner, her professional voice at odds with their cramped domestic reality. She never said it was too small, too loud, too much. But Michael felt it anyway. 2 weeks after the boardroom confrontation, Emma got sick again. Just a cold this time. But Michael panicked. They'd used Victoria's money for the previous treatments, but now Victoria had no income. She'd walked away from everything to be with them. And what if Emma needed more care? What if this apartment wasn't good enough? What if he couldn't provide what they needed? The doubts crept in like poison. "You should go back," Michael said one night after Emma was asleep. Victoria looked up from her laptop. "What?" "To your company, to your life. You could negotiate with your father, find a compromise. You don't have to give up everything for us." "I'm not giving up anything. I'm choosing something different." "Victoria, look around. This isn't your world. You're sleeping on a couch that's too short, working from a kitchen table, eating burnt pancakes and pretending they're good." "I like burnt pancakes." "You hate them. Emma told me you feed half of yours to the neighbor's cat when you think no one's watching." Victoria's lips twitched. "That cat needed feeding. I'm serious. You walked away from billions of dollars. A company you built. A life you worked for. And for what? A guy who can't even afford a bigger apartment? For love," Victoria said simply. "I walked away for love. Love doesn't pay Emma's medical bills." "No, but I do. I have investments, Michael. Trust funds my father can't touch. Money I earned before Sterling Industries. We're not going to starve." "But you're miserable." Victoria closed her laptop carefully. "Am I? You miss your work, your office, the power to change things. I miss some things, but I don't miss the loneliness. I don't miss wondering if anyone would care about me if I wasn't useful." She moved to the couch beside him. "Do you want me to leave?" "No, God, no, but I want you to be happy." "Then let me choose my own happiness. Stop deciding for me what I should want." Michael pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. "I'm terrified I'm not enough." "You are. You're more than enough." She kissed his temple. "But if you push me away because you think you're protecting me, I'll never forgive you." They fell asleep on the couch together, neither willing to let go. The breaking point came 3 weeks later. Emma's school called. There was an incident. Another parent had seen the news articles, connected Michael to that gold digger dating the Sterling heiress, and said things in front of the children. Emma had heard. She'd come home crying, asking Michael if he was a bad person, if Victoria only loved them for money. Michael held his daughter while she sobbed, and something inside him shattered. That night after Emma finally fell asleep, Michael made a decision. He waited until Victoria came back from a meeting with her lawyers. She looked tired but determined, carrying Chinese takeout and a smile that disappeared when she saw his face. "We need to talk," Michael said. Victoria set down the food. "Okay, this isn't working." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Victoria went very still. "What do you mean?" "Emma's being bullied because of us. People at work whisper when I walk by. Your entire family hates me. The media is tearing us apart, and you're sleeping on a couch trying to convince yourself you're happy." "I am happy. You're settling. You gave up everything, and for what? So I could watch you shrink yourself to fit into my life?" "I'm not shrinking, I'm choosing." "Well, I'm choosing too." Michael's voice cracked. "I'm choosing to let you go, before this destroys you, before Emma gets hurt worse, before we both realize we made a terrible mistake." Victoria stood up. "Don't do this. It's already done. Michael, please, we can figure this out. We can find a bigger place. I can talk to Emma's school. We can't fix this." The words came out louder than he intended. "I'm a single father with no money and a sick kid. You're a billionaire who walked away from an empire. Those two things don't fit together. We were kidding ourselves thinking they could. So that's it?" Victoria's voice was shaking. "You're just giving up? I'm being realistic. You're being a coward." The words cut deep. Victoria stepped closer, her eyes blazing. "You told me once that you'd been through worse and you were still here. You told your daughter that love fights. But the first time things get hard, you run. You push me away and call it protection. This is different. How? How is this different from every other time life got difficult and you survived? Because this time I have something to lose." Michael's voice broke. "Don't you understand? I could lose Emma's trust. I could lose her health coverage if something happens to you. I could lose you. And that terrifies me more than anything else in my life. Then don't lose me, keep me, fight for me. I can't. You deserve better than this. Victoria's face crumpled. You don't get to decide what I deserve. I do, and I choose you. I choose this tiny apartment and burnt pancakes and Emma's bedtime stories. I choose all of it. Well, I'm not giving you that choice. The silence that followed was devastating. Victoria grabbed her jacket. Fine. If you want me gone, I'm gone. But you're wrong, Michael, about all of it. And when you figure that out, I hope it's not too late. She left. The door closed. Michael stood in his empty apartment and wondered if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. The answer was yes. The next morning, Emma wouldn't talk to him. She'd heard them fighting, heard him send Victoria away. She went to school silent, came home silent, and spent the evening drawing pictures of castles with missing towers. You said love fights, Emma said finally at dinner. Her voice was small, accusing. Sometimes fighting means letting go. That's a lie. You're lying. Emma, you love her, she loves us, and you made her leave because you're scared. Emma pushed her plate away. Mommy used to say being brave means doing things even when you're scared. You're not being brave. You're being mean. She went to her room and closed the door. Michael sat at the kitchen table, his daughter's words echoing in his head. His mother had said something similar. Victoria had too. Even his 7-year-old daughter could see what he was too terrified to admit. He was running. He'd been running his entire life. From his father's death, from his wife's illness, from poverty, from judgment, from the possibility that good things could happen and stay. And now he was running from the best thing that had ever happened to him because accepting it meant accepting he deserved it. And he'd never believed he deserved anything. His phone buzzed. A text from David, Victoria's assistant. She's signing the deal with her father tomorrow, 10 a.m. Press conference at noon. She's going back to Sterling Industries as COO. Preston Whitmore as CEO. It's what the board wanted. She caved. Michael's stomach dropped. He called David immediately. What deal? The compromise her father offered. She comes back in a reduced role, marries Preston within the year, and the company moves forward. She accepted this morning. Why would she do that? David's laugh was bitter. Why do you think? You broke her heart. She said there was no point fighting for her own life if the person she loved most was going to push her away anyway. So she's going back to the prison. At least there she knows the rules. Michael hung up. He looked at Emma's closed door, at the drawings on the refrigerator that Victoria had done with her, at the stuffed bear from the hospital still sitting on the couch, at the life they'd built in 3 months that felt more real than anything he'd ever known. His mother's words came back. Love isn't about what's easy. It's about what's worth fighting for. Emma was right. He'd been lying to Victoria, to Emma, to himself. He'd told Victoria once that he'd survived worse and he was still here. But he hadn't just survived. He'd fought. For Emma. For their life together. For every small piece of happiness they'd managed to build. Why wasn't he fighting now? Because fighting meant risk. It meant trusting that good things could last. It meant believing he was worth loving. And maybe finally, it was time to believe that. Michael grabbed his phone. The press conference was at Sterling Industries headquarters, in the same building where Victoria had walked away 3 weeks ago. Michael arrived at 11:30, his heart pounding, wearing his best suit, which still wasn't very good. Security tried to stop him. Again. He was starting to feel like it was tradition. I need to see Victoria Sterling, Michael said. She's preparing for a press conference, no visitors. Then I'll wait. Sir, you need to leave. I'm not leaving. The security guard reached for his radio. Then someone cleared their throat behind them. Let him through. Margaret Sterling stood in the lobby, impeccably dressed, her face unreadable. The security guard looked confused but stepped aside. Mrs. Sterling, Michael said carefully. Walk with me, Mr. Chen. They took the elevator in silence. Margaret pressed the button for the executive floor, and Michael braced himself for another confrontation. You hurt my daughter, Margaret said finally. I know. She's been miserable for 3 weeks, barely eating, working 20-hour days. She agreed to this merger with Preston just to have something to distract herself. I'm going to fix it. Margaret studied him. Why should I believe you? Because I love her. Because I was wrong. Because your daughter is the strongest, most brilliant person I've ever met, and she deserves someone who fights for her as hard as she fights for everyone else. Pretty words. True. true words. The elevator doors opened. Margaret stepped out, then turned back. The press conference is in the main conference room. You have 20 minutes before it starts. Victoria's in her old office. She paused. Don't waste this, Mr. Chen. She won't give you another chance. I won't. Thank you. Margaret walked away without responding. Michael found Victoria's office at the end of the hall. The door was closed, but he could see her through the glass walls, standing at the window in a navy suit, her hair perfect, her posture rigid. She looked like the woman he'd met 3 months ago, the CEO, the Ice Queen, the armor back in place. He knocked. She turned, saw him. Every emotion flashed across her face in a second: shock, hurt, anger, hope, before the mask slammed back down. What are you doing here? Her voice was cold. Stopping you from making a terrible mistake. I'm not the one who makes mistakes. That's your specialty. The words cut, but he deserved them. Michael stepped inside, closed the door. You're right. I made a mistake, the biggest one of my life, and I'm here to fix it. There's nothing to fix. We're done. We're not done. We're barely started. Victoria turned back to the window. Go home, Michael. I have a press conference in 15 minutes. I need to prepare. For what? Announcing you're marrying a man you don't love? Going back to a life that makes you miserable? Giving up everything you fought for? I'm being practical. You're running, just like I was. Michael moved closer. I told you to leave because I was terrified. Terrified I wasn't enough, that you'd regret choosing me, that Emma would get hurt. But the truth is, I was more terrified of how much I loved you, how much I needed you. And I've spent my whole life thinking I don't deserve to need anyone. Victoria's shoulders tensed, but she didn't turn around. Emma told me I was lying, Michael continued. She said I told her that being brave means doing things even when you're scared. And she was right. I was lying. I wasn't being brave, I was being a coward. His voice dropped. But I'm here now and I'm asking you not to go through with this, not to marry Preston, not to give up on us. Why? Victoria finally turned. Her eyes were red. Give me one good reason why I should believe you won't push me away again the next time things get hard. Because I'll spend every day for the rest of my life proving I won't. Because Emma misses you so much she won't talk to me. Because my apartment feels empty without your terrible cooking and your laptop on my kitchen table. Because I love you, Victoria. Not your money, not your status, just you. The woman who swept my floor and built block castles and cried on my couch and taught me that I deserve good things too. Victoria's composure cracked. A tear slid down her cheek. You broke my heart. I know, and I'll spend forever making it up to you if you'll let me. What about Emma? What about the bullying and the whispers and all the reasons you said this wouldn't work? We'll figure it out. Together. We'll find a bigger apartment. We'll switch Emma to a different school if we need to. We'll tell the whole world to go to hell if that's what it takes. He took her hands. But I'm done letting fear make my decisions. I'm done deciding what's best for you without asking you. So I'm asking now. Do you still want this? Do you still want us? Victoria was crying openly now. Yes, God, yes, I've wanted nothing else for 3 weeks. Then don't marry Preston. Don't go back to your father's company. Build your own. Build something real, and let me help. Let Emma help. Let us be your family for real this time. No contracts, no time limits, just us. Your apartment is really small, Victoria said through tears. We'll get a bigger one. You hate public attention. I'll learn to deal with it. Your mother thinks I'm too rich. My mother gave me the lecture that got me here. She's on your side. Victoria laughed wetly. What about Emma? Emma's been drawing pictures of castles with missing towers for 3 weeks. She's waiting for you to come back and finish them. I missed her. She missed you too, we both did. Michael wiped her tears with his thumbs. Come home, Victoria. Come home and let us love you the way you deserve. Victoria kissed him, desperate and relieved and full of 3 weeks of missing each other. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she was smiling. I have to cancel a press conference, she said. Yeah, you do. My father is going to be furious. Let him be. Preston will feel humiliated. Preston will survive. He's got enough ego for 3 people. Victoria pulled out her phone, made a call. David, cancel the press conference. Actually, no, don't cancel it. Change it. I'm making a different announcement. She looked at Michael. Something true. 30 minutes later, Victoria stood at a podium in front of 50 journalists and cameras, with Michael beside her and Emma, who Michael had called his mother to bring over, holding her hand. 3 weeks ago, Victoria began, I walked away from Sterling Industries. Today I'm here to announce that I won't be returning, not as COO, not in any capacity. Instead, I'm launching my own company, Sterling and Chen Technologies, a firm focused on ethical business practices, family-first policies, and proving that profit and humanity aren't mutually exclusive. The journalists erupted with questions. Victoria held up her hand. My partner in this venture is Michael Chen, the man the media has spent 3 months calling a gold digger, an opportunist, and a distraction. But the truth is, he's the most honest person I've ever met. He pushed me away because he thought he was protecting me, and I almost gave up on us because I thought maybe he was right. But we were both wrong. She looked down at Emma, then at Michael. Love isn't a weakness. It's not a distraction or a liability. It's the whole point. And I'm done apologizing for choosing it. She faced the cameras. So yes, I'm dating Michael Chen. Yes, I left my family's company for him. And yes, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because some things are worth more than stock prices and family approval. Some things are worth everything. The room exploded with questions. Cameras flashing, journalists shouting. Victoria ignored them all. She stepped away from the podium, took Michael's hand, and walked out. Emma skipped between them. That was so cool. You were like a superhero. Victoria laughed. Just a regular person, sweetheart. Regular people don't tell rooms full of scary adults they're wrong. Your dad does it all the time. Michael squeezed her hand. What now? Now we go home, make terrible dinner, build block castles, be a family. Victoria smiled. The real kind. Not the fake kind. Not the contractual kind. Just real. They walked out of Sterling Industries together, past the protesters who'd gathered when word spread, past the cameras, past Richard Sterling who watched from his window with an expression Michael couldn't read. Victoria's phone was exploding with notifications. Investors wanting in on her new company, media requesting interviews, old colleagues offering support, but she turned it off. They can wait, she said. Right now I have a castle to finish. 6 months later, Michael stood in their new apartment. Not huge, not a penthouse, but bigger than his old place, with a window seat where Emma liked to read, and a kitchen big enough for Victoria to burn pancakes properly. Sterling and Chen Technologies had launched to surprising success. Turns out a lot of people were tired of corporate greed and liked the idea of a company that valued humans as much as profits. They had 20 employees now. Small, but growing. Emma's health had stabilized. The new treatment Victoria's connections had found was working. She was back in school, excelling, making friends who didn't care about news articles or family drama. Victoria came home from a meeting, kicked off her heels, and collapsed on the couch beside Michael. Rough day? He asked. Good day. Tiring day. She snuggled into his side. We got 3 new contracts. David threatened to quit twice. Emma's teacher called to say she got the lead in the school play. She did? She didn't tell me. She's been planning her reveal for maximum dramatic effect. She gets that from you. Michael laughed. How is any of this my fault? Everything good is your fault, that's the rule. Emma burst through the door, home from her grandmother's house. Daddy, Victoria, I have news. We heard, Victoria said. The lead in the school play. That's amazing. Emma's face fell. Mrs. Rodriguez told you? I wanted to surprise you. You can still surprise us with your performance, Michael said. When is it? 3 weeks and I need help with my lines. Emma pulled out a script. It's about a princess who saves herself. No prince required. Victoria grinned. My favorite kind of story. They spent the evening practicing lines, ordering pizza because nobody wanted to cook, laughing when Emma dramatically died in Act 2 and refused to get up until they applauded. Later, after Emma was asleep, Michael and Victoria sat on their small balcony, sharing a cheap bottle of wine and watching the city lights. Do you ever regret it? Michael asked quietly. Giving up the empire, the money, all of it? Victoria considered this. Sometimes I miss the power, the ability to change things with a signature. But then I come home and Emma shows me her homework, and you've made dinner badly, and we watch terrible TV together, and I realize I didn't give up anything. I just traded one kind of wealth for another. That's very poetic. I've been practicing. Emma says I need to work on my metaphors for her play. Michael pulled her closer. I love you. I love you too, even though you burned dinner again tonight. That was your fault. You distracted me. How is it my fault if you can't cook and flirt at the same time? Nobody can do both. Victoria laughed, the sound pure and unguarded. The laugh of someone who'd finally stopped performing and started living. Thank you, she said softly. For what? For fighting. For coming back. For letting me choose you. She kissed him gently. For teaching me that sometimes the best things in life are small, simple, real. Like burnt pancakes? Exactly like burnt pancakes. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city, thinking about everything that had brought them here. The fake relationship that became real. The contract that turned into a promise. The business arrangement that transformed into a family. Inside, Emma slept peacefully, her stuffed bear tucked under her arm, drawings of castles on her walls. Complete castles now, no missing towers. And in a penthouse across town, Richard Sterling sat alone in his office, looking at a photo of Victoria as a child, wondering when exactly he'd lost his daughter, and realizing too late that he'd never really had her at all. But that was his story. This one belonged to Michael and Victoria and Emma, to burnt pancakes and block castles, to love that was messy and imperfect and worth everything, to choosing each other every single day, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard, because that's what real love does. It fights, and it wins.